Okay, folks, we're going to get started. Got a few things to chat about, and we'll see if anyone joins us this time. Last time we got a few people down into faction warfare and got some LP. No fights last time, so hopefully this time we'll get a bit of a fight. This class really kind of focus on a few different fits that might get you to win a few times in faction warfare. So the idea being that you're maybe a new player, you're alpha, you have limited skills, but the problem is everyone is flying faction ships, pirate ships, and these can generally outclass you. So what we're looking to kind of aim for this time is a few fits that kind of give you an edge in specific cases. So that's kind of called an engagement profile where you can win if you choose your battles well. So the first ship that I want to talk about is the Breacher. So Rust Bucket Supreme. This fit I have here does something that usually flies in the face of most EVE logic. I think it actually flags an issue here with my fit that says that it's using both armor and shield modules, and I'm doing that intentionally. So what we have here is this fit is quite tight. I'm flying with an alpha character though, so it is alpha accessible. You will need some basic skills, fitting skills, weapon upgrades in order to fit it. However, it is fittable with alpha skills only. I do have Tech 2 rocket launchers just to give myself a little boost in DPS. So perhaps with Tech 1 rocket launchers, you won't have such fitting issues. Here though, we've got an oversized medium ancillary shield booster. So the idea behind this module is it's actually a cruiser-sized module. Quite a lot of the time, fits can focus around fitting an oversized module for your ship class. So you might fit a battleship, battle cruiser sized prop mod on a cruiser to allow you to go very fast, or you might fit cruiser sized tank modules on a frigate, because in frigates generally we're quite limited to the slots that we have, so every module really has to kind of make an impact that you put in. So here, you know, we're restoring 190 hit points per cycle. And the nice thing about ancillary shield boosters is that while they have these cap booster ammo loaded into them, they don't take any cap to run. So with everything running, you do see that my cap does say 45-second heals, but if we simulate that, actually, if we turn off this ripper down here, we are stable. So while we're kind of initially fighting, we're cap stable. Part of this is sort of trying to imagine the fight that you will take before you undock, which is a skill in itself. But the idea here is that we fit this with 9 Navy Cap Booster 50s with shield booster or ancillary shield booster modules. You generally want to fit the smallest cap booster size that will fit. That's why we go with Navy Cap boosters, because they'll fit the 50s in here. And that gives you 9 cycles, 9 reps of this 190 shield boost. You can overheat to get it up to 209 for me. And if you look at our shield, we only have, 690 hit points to start with. So, we're kind of getting a third of our shield repped every time. So you need to be in control. You can't just leave this ripper running. Only rep when you get the kind of maximum benefit from it. So that provides a really, really strong active rep bonus that doesn't require any cap. So it's free from any kind of newt pressure. The idea here is that we have a scram, a web, and an afterburner, so we have almost a perfect scram kite engagement, which means that we control the engagement range in under 10 kilometers. The idea being that we can hit out with our Tech 2 rockets to 7.5 kilometers, and short range weapons like blasters, even the Tech 2 ones will be forced to fight using their long range ammo, which usually slashes their DPS by about 2/3. So if you can slightly outrange and scram range brawling frigates, then you take either no damage or a lot less damage. This version has an afterburner. In Faction Warfare, there is a button on the Plex, we call it the button. It's the place where you warp into in the combat sites. So they're forced to warp into you in that place. That means that micro warp drives are useful, and definitely a lot of people fit them in different fits. But a lot of brawling fits will favour afterburner. That's something that you don't necessarily see so much in nullsec, where generally speed is king and you want to catch people, which we still want to do, but if they're forced to come close to you, then an afterburner might just be enough. When you have caught someone and you're in that kind of sub 10 kilometers range, if you need to catch someone, I've had to use a scoped warp scrambler here, so it's just a little bit less efficient than a Tech 2, but has less fitting requirements. I can overheat that too to get that out to nearly 10 kilometers, which matches my web code. So sort of within 10 kilometers, I've got quite a lot of control over the distance that I set between me and my enemy. Because rockets don't have a fall off or anything like that, you want to set at your maximum range that you can, so about 7,000 kilometers, and that mitigates hopefully some of the damage. However, you will lose that advantage against certain ship types that have dual webs. So there's a few different ships that will carry a dual web, afterburner and scram. If you're up against something like that, they're going to be able to set the range on you. Now, because you're using rockets, even with the Tech 2 rockets, this ship can also carry 2 drones. This character, this alpha character, wasn't fully spec'd into taking Tech 2 drones. I'm still working on that with sort of injectors, but so I've used some Federation Navy ones here, which is a little bit more expensive, but kind of give you sort of Tech 2 drone damage. So a little bit of your damage is 2 drones, and these 3 rockets are still only giving me just under 100 DPS. So this isn't not the highest DPS ship. However, you can usually outlast most other frigates in the game, especially 1-to-1. So the idea is that you start burning through your medium Ancillary Shield Booster reps, so you get 9 reps of 209 if you overheat. And it takes 60 seconds to reload more cap charges. So I have them in my cargo hold. You need to make sure that you always carry enough for a few reloads at least, and then go back and restock once you've done a few fights. And in that time, they usually have a chance to kill you. So any ship carrying a medium Ancillary Shield Booster can outlast you for a little while, and once that runs out, this starts taking a lot of capacitor to continue to run, so most people will start to reload it. Most people leave auto reload on for that purpose. If you do want to try and get a use of that, if we take the cap charges out, maybe I need to not have it there, let's put it back into there. Oh, can I just unload and remove charge like that? You'll see that my capacitor runs out in 3 seconds, because just that module, if we only have that thing on, you see that thing is just killing my cap now that I've run out of charges. So you can't really run that without, on a frigate especially, without cap charges in it. However, we have this ancillary armor repair I've managed to fit as well. So this thing gives me 156 every 4.5 seconds of armor hit points, or if I overheat it, 172. So that's still, coming up on not quite, but coming up on a half of our armor for a single rep, and we get 8 reps of that. This does take some capacitor, and this is where I'm not cap stable now, but this thing will be off during the fight. So we're kind of trying to simulate the fight here by having the modules on and off. This gives us 8 reps of that 172 for overheating, and that might just be long enough for us to reload this. And then once this is out, this will start to reload another 60 seconds. And generally, by this point, most T1 versus T1 frigate PvP doesn't last this long. But the idea here is that you're going to flip in between these two reps, okay? In the rig slots, and I've decided to favour shield. It gives a little bit more. This is our kind of main tank module. This is our backup. There's other ways that you can obviously fit this ship. You could favour armour if you wanted. Generally, it's a little bit slower. or you could boost your DPS if you felt you wanted just a little bit more DPS. But this way I've got a thermal shield resistor, an EM, that's some of the most common damage types that usually get shot at frigates, and a little field, closed defense field extender. But there's a little bit of variability in the rigs. I've just chosen to just boost my kind of shield initially. So it looks like we're probably going to be going this one solo. We are going to get started soon. I just want to talk about a couple of other potential options before we go down. And if you get any questions about anything I'm talking about, please pop that into chat. I'll check chat periodically. I'm still working on getting my new setup where I can see chat at the same time. So if you're new to Faction Warfare and you do want to make a little bit of cash, then one way to do that is to maximize the DPS. We'll just exit that simulation just now. So I've set up here, I do have Tech 2 neutron blasters. So again, you might be using Tech 1, so your DPS will be a little bit lower. This is primarily designed, it does have a scram, but it's primarily designed to kill the rat that spawns an offensive plexes quickly. You'll see that my DPS here is 225 with Void. You'll get probably sub 200, but still maybe something like 180 with Tech 1 guns and Kodari Navy Antimatter. This is technically a brawling ship as well. I've got a medium compact shield extender. This is very common. This thing gives 900 hit points. So if that's 2, 4, 6, 8, that's 4.5 medium ancillary reps just on that one module without having to click anything, without having to load any cap charges, without having to care about it. So that's a kind of it's not as good as getting through all of your cap cycles on a medium ancillary shield booster, but the fitting requirements are a bit less, and it will just do its thing. You're obviously getting a bit more hit points per second. So if we simulate and turn off this module, you see that normally maximum, so that happens at 25% shield, you'll gain 3 hit points a second of passive regen, but because your maximum shield goes from 690 with my skills to nearly 2000, so it's tripled the shield with this one module. It's also tripled the passive regen. So that's definitely not enough to to counter most DPS that will come in against you, but it certainly helps a little bit and extends the lifetime of this module's usefulness. With the Tech 2 at least, I've been forced to fit Micro Auxiliary Power Core. That's quite a common module on frigates. It gives you that 10, I believe it's 10 megawatts of power, which for frigates where 60 megawatts is kind of the maximum, that's quite a large fraction of that power grid, so that lets you get some of these fits. I have my magnetic field stabilizer, and I have put a little bit of extra cost by doing a Tech 2 rig, but they're not too pricey. If you look at the market, it's it's 2 million basically, or 300k for the Tech 1. Just to boost my DPS. Over this 200 DPS, I really can attack the cruiser, definitely attack the destroyer, and just about attack the cruiser ships. So that opens up new potential plexes and systems where I can either be smart with my D-scan, so I can run away, or that are just a bit quiet that I want to plex in. So this is more kind of if you want to make money, you want to maximize your DPS, is the main job, and having still been able to do this on a frigate means that the smaller sites will be still open to you, rather than having to get plus 200 DPS in a destroyer or even a cruiser, fit in a different way. This is a brawling ship, so with Void, you see that we're only hitting out, our optimal range is just 1.5 or 1.6 k meters, so it's really short. You've got to be orbiting 500 basically. The turret tracking on these is great, so you don't have to worry about your tracking really. You want to make yourself small and hard to hit, so with Afterburner, Scram and Web, that you've got reasonable control. Again, if you go up against a dual web ship, and we'll talk about some of the common ones that you see in faction warfare, then you'll still lose because they want to sit 7.5 kilometers away from you, or 8,000. Did I say that right? It's 7.5k or 8,000 meters away from you, and you see that your void can't hit. So we'd be forced to switch to null or iron if you're using Tech 1. And you see your DPS drops to 140. So we've lost a significant amount of our DPS. We can hit out to 7, but remember, in fall off, you're doing about 50% of that. So, that's 70 DPS. So we've went from 225 DPS at basically point blank shotgun range to 70 DPS. So less than the Breacher. So that's how scram kiting can be really powerful against a ship, especially like this. If you can sit around 8,000 meters and you have control over the distance, then you can sort of force a win. We have quite good control here. If we're able to fit a micro warp drive here, we're effectively giving up some of that control, although we go faster to catch things. Once we're in that kind of sub 10 kilometer scram range, we do have the scram in the web, but anything with an afterburner will still go, and a scram in the web will be able to go faster than us. So that's the kind of logic about these 3 modules here in the medium slot. It's all passive tank, so we just have this big huge buffer. Once it's burnt through, it's burnt through, and we don't really have anything else we can do. So this is the type of ship you might start with. It's good for plexing, but you'll find that other ships know how to beat you effectively, and there's many other ships that will be able to take on what you have and sort of ensure a win. But still good for getting cash. You'll still be able to plex very efficiently in this. If we go to the Navy ships, so one of the common ones that you'll see, and especially Kodari, is the Hookbill. Load simulated ship, yes please. So this is kind of the way I've fit this anyway, is sort of like the Breacher upgraded, and there is a few different ways that you can fit this. The Hookbill can be fit more for range with missile launchers and kite, so we'll talk about what kiting is in a little second. Hey there Blazy, how are you doing? But this again is kind of that scram kiter that we have as the Breacher. So we still have our medium ancillary shield booster. You'll see that when I put on my cap charges that I get a bit more cap. And I need nanite repair paste in my ancillary armor repair, so it works efficiently. And we're still not doing amazing DPS. You can see that actually the way that I've set this up, we've got slightly less DPS than even the Breacher. I lowered that about double the cost, about 20 million now. Still totally accessible for alpha players. This isn't a huge cost, especially once you're starting to get Plex in Faction Warfare, or LP, sorry. But you can see that with the extra mid, we can keep our Afterburner shield boost module, scram. I can upgrade even with the extra CPU that this ship has to Tech 2, so that gives me a 9,000 range cold, 11k overheated, so I can scram things from a bit further than they can scram me normally, especially against a T1 ship with a Tech 1 scrambler. And with the 2 webs, basically only other dual webbed ships, which can be rare-ish, can match my sort of range control in that sort of 10 to 11 kilometers. The Hookbill does get a bonus to range, so you see my rockets fly all the way out to 11 kilometers. So I can keep at range, or orbit even, probably be better, orbit at 10 kilometers, lock them heavily down with 2 webs and a scram. So the scram will turn off micro warp drives if they're micro warp drive fit, and I can just sit at 10 kilometers, blast away. I don't have a lot of damage, and they are hopefully forced to switch to something like null. But remember, at 10 kilometers, even null is not necessarily, with blasters, not necessarily reaching me at all. And any damage that I'm taking, I can hopefully comfortably just absorb through my medium ancillary reps. Then if they get burnt out, while that's reloading, I'll switch to my backup ancillary armor repair. You can fit this ship because it's a bit more fitting with MWD, so you're giving up a little bit of your range control, but you still have the dual web. So this version of the ship is really for catching kiters. So it's still loaded with rockets. If I was to load this with missile launchers, then it would almost, and a long point here, so a warp disruptor, so that will, overheated, will catch things, stop them warping away out to about 30 kilometers, but won't turn off micro warp drives. So you can sort of hold things down, but not stop the micro warp drive ships. You still want to kind of catch ships that can go fast. So this thing cold can go 2.8, the way I've got it fitted here. You can change the fitting slightly to make it go faster if you want a bit more speedy. But that'll catch quite a lot of things. I can overheat this for a short duration to go over 4K. Which is starting to get fast. Only really interceptors are sort of faster than that normally. So once I get into the 10-kilometer range, I've caught my target, I turn on the scram, their micro warp drive goes off, and I have my dual webs to pin them down. So even if they have a scram, usually kiter ships have long points, so they have disruptors. Even if they have a scram and turns my micro warp drive off like this, I still have the dual web. I can still hopefully sit around 10 kilometers from them and then ping away at them. And most kite ships, so ships that want to just stay at a distance from you, that's really what kiting means, don't have as much tank as close range brawling ships. So you'll likely, for the same frigate to frigate class size, or even against some destroyers, you'll likely have much more tank available to you with these two modules here than they do. So even though this is not the highest DPS ship, it's still a really useful ship in faction warfare that has a lot of sort of engagement potential, for sure. We are going to get underway very soon. There's definitely a few more ship types, like the kiting Tristan. I actually wonder if on this character I even have a kiting fit, because I don't have him trained. This is like an example of one. So the Tristan is quite kind of famous in faction warfare. You know, you can go at nearly 3k. Your DPS is not amazing, even with Tech 2 drones. This is can launch 5 acolytes, but the acolytes really can go out to your full targeting. So you have, damage projection is good out to 44 kilometers. Yes, they can start to shoot your drones, so that is an issue. You can have backups in here if you want, so you can have up to 8 drones, so you can have 3 backups to launch. And really you just want to stay away from the enemy. So your warp disruptor will point them out to 24 cold or 29 overheated. So you want to stay around 20 to 25 kilometers, and for most frigate ships that is beyond their damage projection range unless they are kiters themselves. So if you can be faster than a little afterburner frigate and stay out of their scram range, that basically means death to you, and you keep them on grid with your point, then you'll be faster than really anything with an afterburner. So that's the kind of deal with that. I've chucked I'm kind of always one, if I have the space, I'll always put some just some guns on. It doesn't really do much, but if something does catch you, it is an extra, I think, 32 DPS in total. So that's like having an extra drone and a half. So if something does get close to you, these kind of little plinky railguns will just add a little bit of damage for you. So that is an example of a kiter where you can stay faster than anything that's an afterburner. Remember the danger of warping in on an enemy in a plex. You're forced to go to that button. So if they are a brawling ship, like any of those scram kiters that have been shown off, then they will try and catch you on that button before you have a chance to get away. So you would probably want to pre-overheat, pick a random direction and try to go as fast as you can, and hopefully you don't get scrammed, or your kind of second or two that you get out of your micro warp drives enough to sort of throw you out of scram range and you can turn it back on. I wonder if I have my version. I don't have my old version on this, but another option for the Tristan, just before we get unlocked, is instead of guns, I'll need to adjust some kind of power, and the fit will be restrained. These will probably be compact, or an ANSI maybe on here, but we'll just pop a compact on here just now. probably, no, that still doesn't fit. Maybe we need the ancillary shield repair there. But once we get this to fit, the logic behind here is this is actually a brawling Tristan, so completely opposite of what we just had. So we're in the short range, so we pick a scrambler and a web and an afterburner. That's your trifecta of ensuring range control when you're scramming, but you bring newts instead of guns. So you've still got your drone damage. Here, this is only loaded with T1s, so expect a little bit more. It's just obviously an old fit. And the idea here is that each of these newts, you know, is eliminating 50 gigajoules of energy per 6 seconds. And, you know, with frigates, you know, I have 400 so that's, gigajoules from my capacitor when I'm full. So in a few cycles, I can kind of newt out an enemy, and usually, you know, you can survive for 12 to 18 seconds in a fight, especially with a small anti-armor repairer here. And the idea is that even if it's not going well, now that you've neuted them out, then they've just turned off your so you've turned off their scram, you've turned off their web, you've turned off their afterburner, and if they're using railguns, blasters, or lasers against you, then you've also turned off their weapons by using newts. So I like this. I used to take fleets out of these. Obviously the best ship in EVE is the Friendship, and what I found was that 3 of these is enough to easily even take down a cruiser. Let me just see if I can. I think it should fit pretty well. Small and say armor repair. Yeah, it does there. So I think that's close to the kind of fit that we had before. Alright, so that just shows you that the same ship can be fit in a different way in order to surprise your enemy. So, you know, if enemies get comfortable and they think that all Tristans in Faction Warfare are kiters, oh hey Blazy, welcome to EVE. If you have any questions, I know this is kind of a bit of an intense sort of fitting logic. It's effectively the second version of this class, so I'm kind of assuming that you've seen kind of some initial sort of faction warfare things already, and we're kind of going a bit deep dive. So if anything is confusing, just feel free to ask a question. I'll check chat every few minutes, and I'll try to be as helpful as I can. But what I like about this is you're sort of turning your enemy's expectations against them. So they think, oh, you are a regular kiting Tristan with a long point. I need to rush to get as close as I can to this thing with my brawling ship, so that I can catch it and kill it. Well, you have a surprise waiting for those ships, because getting close is exactly what you want to do, because you want to get within range of here. Now, these are a bit cap heavy, so you do have to be careful. If they're running at you, then maybe you don't need to have this on, but you maybe don't need to run that straight away, and with that you have 3 cycles at least of your things. You can potentially go down to 2 if you need to, and then down to 1 once you have them neuted out, just to keep them neuted. So you have to be quite actively controlled. If you, I've just slapped on some armor pumps here. You can put on some cap rigs to help that out a little bit. So this isn't my kind of old fit. It was in a different character, unfortunately. But this is close to it, and you can upgrade these to Tick 2s and things as your skills allow. But that's the basic logic. So if you can get a couple of friends, 2 or 3 of these, they're actually big force multipliers, all sitting on that kind of warp in button, and sort of turning the tables on your kind of enemy's expectations. And that's how you secure a win in PvP, is sort of doing something that your enemy's not prepared for, and kind of unleash a little bit of a nasty surprise for them. So I thought I would just finish before we kind of undock with that ship. So since definitely have at least 1 new player in chat, let's talk about some basics of faction warfare. I think we are going to go with our Breacher today. I have had some successful 1v1s in this fit specifically. Make sure for faction warfare that you know where your insurance button is, especially when you're new. Tech 1 hulls tend to have quite good insurance, so it's usually a good idea to have insurance, especially when you're flying Tech 1. In the agency, you can find faction warfare. Where did it go? It's population encounters. That'll be it. So in encounters, faction warfare here, and then you can open the faction warfare window. In here I've got the button retire, but you've got the button enlist, and it shows you a map of the war zone. What they've added in kind of recent times though is these sort of projection shipcaster modules. So players get to decide where this goes. So right now it's located in this system in Onomon, and if you go here every 2 minutes, there's basically a jump gate that will cycle between these 3 locations, and players can decide who are part of faction warfare where these gates get put. They're generally put on, you can see, sort of frontline systems to help attack systems that they're wanting to conquer for their side. So blue here is Caldari owned, and green is Gallente owned. You can see Caldari's doing a little bit better than Gallente right now. And this just can be a quick way, if you happen to be near these systems, to get into the front line. There is, however, I should say, no return option. So if you use this thing, the Shipcaster, you are basically getting cast and launched out to these locations. And then you have to fly back the old-fashioned way or use the Pod Express. So I've set up a kind of launch pad for me at Nerva Kaiken. So it's really great to find a station that has that's part of the faction warfare that you have joined. So the State Protectorate Logistics Support, any station that says State Protectorate is going to have a loyalty point store that will allow you to exchange the loyalty points that you earn for completing faction warfare, basically mission sites called plexes or complexes. And it's that gets you the real money. And we'll show that process in a wee bit. So let's head out to Nerva Kaiken. I've not had any offers to join this time. Nick Stratton, if you do want to come with me, I think the best ship in EVE is the Friendship. You can always get a good force multiplier and take down bigger sites and targets. But I'm happy to do this solo and just have you folks watch. So ready, set, my destination there. So let's get undocked and get underway. It's only 3 jumps from Jita. So a nice thing about fighting for Caldari Militia is that you have Jita access, and you're only 3 jumps really from the war zone. So let's go and see. Yeah, Blazy, we're going to go see if we can get a fight, and hopefully a fight that we can at least have a chance at winning. But if I don't win, hey ho, that's the kind of experience that you'll probably have the first time you do faction warfare. But it can be surprising. This Breacher's it's got a little bit of a kick to it that a lot of people don't realise. It's maybe a little bit more of an uncommon one, and you can really sort of turn your opponent's kind of lack of information against them. They might not realise how tanky this little Breacher can be. While I'm jumping here, order of modules, just how I like it, but it's obviously up to you. If you're very new, this little symbol here groups your guns or your missiles, so it's very good to make sure that they're grouped usually, so that they're all attacking the same target and doing all of the damage in one go. You always want to keep your enemy on grid first, so before you shoot them, you want to, if you can, you want to make sure that they are pointed. So I usually put that one first. Or second, I'll actually put my prop mod up here, because speed is everything in EVE. If you are not moving, you're usually dead. So speed is the number one thing. You need to catch them. Then you need to keep them on grid. Then, and only after you've got a successful lock with your scram or your point, do you ever want to put a web on. The reason being is if you web something and it's not pointed, anything that's webbed and has its maximum speed reduced can actually warp away much quicker than normal. So webbing things before pointing them just allows them to escape if they want to do that. So that's why that's the order there. Then I've got my primary tank module and my secondary tank module. Depending on what I'm going up against, I'll usually preheat these anyway, because we only have so many charges. And we might get a second cycle, but usually, like I say, Frigate PvP doesn't last quite that long. So we want to get the most use that we can out of that. I don't need to go into station, but so let's just hang out here. We're still in high sec, and I have, remember, my 60-second cloak. this might be a bit of a fun stream if we jump. I don't have a scout. I've not been in the system in a while. I could jump into Tama and there could be lots on the gate waiting to kill me. It's definitely a hot system, so it could end very quickly and we'll have to go get another ship and think about another way into faction warfare. But we'll see how it goes anyway. So let's have a look at what we have kind of on offer. So I'm over here. It tells you where you are in Norvikaiken. These are all our systems here. Really, to get some action, I'm looking at going to like Devon or Onisaiken. That's a little bit possibly further away, but there's 2 ships there. So Haydillies is usually one where I will normally get killed in, so I don't want to go quite that far. We'll just see what Devon is like and see if we can get some, at least run a Plex in there to show what that is. So let's just warp to the gate first and we'll see if anyone is sitting on there. If you do have some friends in like a shuttle, it can be good to scout the gate first in a shuttle just to check. Depending on what's sitting on the gate, we might do that just for the stream's sake, just so that excuse me, folks, just so that we are. We've had definitely lots of things sitting on here. Let's just YOLO it. Why not? It is a little bit of a risk, especially in an afterburner ship. That because we're a little bit slower, we can't crash the gate, which is a technique to escape a gate camp. So we might be able to with an overheated afterburner, or we might get pointed and webbed, and that is just over, depending on what is on the other side. So we'll go have a look. YOLO it, why not? So there's a Prophecy Navy issue sitting right on the gate. Now, he might be Smart Bomb. He might have some signal boosters to point things quickly. There's a capsule there. We're just going to see if we can get away before he can lock us. And we'll see if we manage that. And we did. So he is a bigger ship than us, which means that his locking time against small ships is extended. You can make that quicker with signal boost modules if you want to catch things on gate. But not this time. We got away. It's definitely not something that we want to fight, though. Talking about you have to pick your fights kind of wisely. Do you count the Titans off on your PvP? No, I don't. Not in the well. I do. I do every night when I go on fleets in Brave, for sure. Let's just always check locals. It's good if you can have local out. You can see here it's one of the main intelligence tools that you can really use. There's only 1 newt in this system, and everyone else is part of my militia. So this is quite a friendly system, and I'm not too worried about just going gate to gate to get where I need to go. Tiny potential that could be something hostile, but we'll just go with it. No, not really in low sec faction warfare. Titans and Eve are usually mainly used nowadays anyway, since they're so expensive. They can bridge other fleets to other systems, so they can deploy a whole fleet several jumps away, so that our fleet can get there quickly and respond to things where enemies are perhaps attacking some of our stuff. So we have far more neutrals in this system and some friendlies. So I think this one is still held by us, and it's contested quite high. So it looks like the enemies have been pushing this system quite far. So we'll go see if there's anything sitting on this side of that gate. And I think the next system is the one that we've kind of targeted, so we'll see how hot it is. Yeah, Blizzy, the career missions are great. They give you quite a lot of ISK. I think it's over 10 million ISK if you do them all. Even if you don't think you fancy that career, it still kind of shows off aspects of Eve so that you understand what they are, and throws free ships at you and ISK. So it's really great to just participate in. So we have an Osprey Navy issue landing, which is definitely a threat to a frigate. Usually it's fit with rapid light missiles. We've got war targets in this system. Are they on the gate? They're not on the gate. So what we're immediately going to do is, I've got a tab here. We are going to go to the sun at 100. When you enter a new system, it's good to set up safe points that you can go to. So when you're in warp, if you hit Control B, you bring up this, and if you're mid-warp, then you hit your make attack, and our warpable location back there is now, we can now go to it. So this grid anyone can warp to, so we're a little bit at risk if there's someone just sitting on the sun. So see in locations, I now have this thing called Safe 1. So we'll go there and we'll be a little bit more safe. To catch us, someone would have to scan us down with probes. We can tell if someone is probing us down by using the D-scan. So this is a good time to introduce this tool, especially if you're new and want to PvP. The D-scan is something, the focus of this class is not going to be D-scan, so I would suggest go looking at one of the many D-scan videos that there is. But basically this shows you what's near your ship. So if you turn it to its maximum range of 14.3 AU, remember AU is the distance between Earth and the Sun, just a little bit of physics bit there. So for solar system range things, that is quite good. We can see within a 360 angle, you see that this green sphere has appeared around my ship, and basically anything in there, according to what I've got filtered, will appear in my D-scan. So I've got a few kind of filters from the ZTAC-S overview. Some of them are for D-scanning, so that is quite good. So you can see D-scan all. That can be a bit messy because you'll see you know, people's drones. If you want to go hunt drones with combat scanners, lost drones, you can make some cash that way. I've seen people do that. But we're going to go D-scan defensive here. So you can see that within this 14.3 AU bubble, that there is two Coercer Navy issues, a Mastodon Industrial, a Gila, 2 capsules, which generally pick up the names, so usually we can tell who's in a capsule, and the Tristan. If we reduce it down to 5 AU, we can see that there's nothing within the 5 AU distance, okay, when we keep this 360. So there's nothing close to us right now. The 1 AU distance is what you set for things, you can see the size of the green sphere here, is for things that are maybe just about to land on grid with you. If you set your filtering correctly, you can also have combat probes appear on here as well. So if someone is sort of scanning you down and you see some combat probes appear on this short 1 AU or 5 AU, you know that you need to get off grid quickly because someone is, might be able to warp to this safe that you have done. However, that means that they come with a ship that does have probes. So it's only specific hunters with probes that will be able to get you that way. It still can happen. Okay, so if we use angles that are less, so we'll turn our range back up to 14.3. We use angles that are less than 360. You can see that the sphere turns into a cone, and the cone's width depends on what angle that I set it. This cone faces the direction that your camera is in, not that your ship is in, that your camera is in. So what that means is that very quickly, if I take it down to a 5-degree angle, 14.3 range, and I pick something that's within 14.3, I hold down C, so I'm going to get this small advanced one. This is a Faction Warfare Plex, one of those mission sites I was talking about, and hit C. I'll look at it, and because the angle is 5 degrees, I can scan it, and nothing has appeared. So I know that that site right now is empty. And unless anyone is cloaked, or they're in one of those spooky ships like the Curse, which doesn't appear on D-scans. There's a few exceptions to that. But unless they're cloaked or in one of those ships that are immune to D-scan, it's empty. And with it being a small and advanced, which means that I think Tech 2 can come in and smalls can accept up to destroyers, I believe. that only certain ship classes can enter here. So I think frigates and destroyers and the Tech 2 and Navy ones. So if we go to here and scan this one is also empty. And this one is not. Okay, so there's 2 Coercer Navy issues, 2 Kodari Navy Hootbills, remember we were talking about those ships, and a Crucifier. So these are 2 destroyers, 2 frigates, and an E-War Tech 1 frigate. Just knowing the names and what they can bring is also a skill. Now, there is a collection of both friendly and hostiles in the system. So I don't know if this site is friendly and is being defended by the hostiles, or it's being run by the friendlies there. Either way, right now, as a solo player, I want to stay out of it. It's likely going to be friendlies. There's a little bit more friendlies than there is hostiles, and it's likely that those friendlies are running that site down. So there is some hostiles in the system, so we might get some action here, but let's pick one of the sites. Now, because these are on the overview, it means that someone has been in them before. And you can see that just by hitting C and clicking on these things, I can quickly scan and tell if there's anyone there. So it's a really important tool for knowing who's where in a system. Now, unfortunately, the range only goes out to 14.3. So I can scan this one, and I can see there's a Catalyst Navy issue and a Coercer Navy issue in that small. But there's a medium here, which will accept up to cruiser size. And is it battle cruiser now? I'm not so sure. I think that's maybe just large. But at least cruisers, and it looks like it's empty, but notice how the distance is beyond my maximum distance. So if I just warp there, then I might get a nasty surprise. And I can't scan any of these gates, for example. So I would need to get attack or find something else to warp to that takes me close enough to see these D-scans. So Blaze, difference between low and null. So right now I'm in low sec, where faction warfare takes place. You can see that because there's a security status below 0.5. And what that means is that you can engage players in PvP, and the space police won't show up and destroy your ship. In high sec, people can shoot you. However, the space police Concord will show up after a period of time, and the person who shot you illegally will lose their ship. Like, Concord will definitely destroy their ship, and there's no way to escape that. The reason that still happens is they can fit quite a cheap ship that comes with quite a lot of DPS, and if they can destroy your ship before Concord shows up, then you still lose your ship, and your half your cargo and modules fall to your wreck. And if you are carrying a lot of expensive goods, say hundreds of millions of ISK worth, and a Tech 1 hauler that's not tanked very well, then I can kill that with a single catalyst worth 10 million, and then a friend can come and loot your wreck, and we just made like 200 million minus the cost of my ship. So that's called a gank. So that's how PvP can happen in high sec, even when it's not legal. When you join faction warfare, then you're at war with the opposing faction. So you can see I'm at war with Galenti and Garistus here. So that means that if I encounter other people in that faction that I'm at war with, they can shoot me in high sec, and they won't get the space police showing up. In low security, as like I said, you can shoot people and the space police won't show up. However, on gates and at stations, so these are gates here to different systems, and these are the squares or the NPC stations, they have gate guns, they're called. And if you shoot someone that you don't have legally able to, so right now the Newt left, that would have been a nice use case, but these guys that are flashing, or you can say it's pilots at war with your militia, so I can freely engage those and the gate guns won't aggress me. So I'm free to engage my war targets. There was a neutral in the system, someone not part of faction warfare. He just had the little eco sign in grey colour here. If I had to shoot him on a gate or an NPC station, then the gate guns would start to attack me. Now, they can be tanked in something like a destroyer cruiser. I think do something like 200 DPS or something like that. But in frigates, you will potentially die to gate guns if you sort of attack someone illegally, someone you don't really have a legal right to attack. In nullsec, there is no rules, there's no gate guns, and you can attack anyone. those illegal aggressions in low-sec will also reduce your security status, and if that happens too often, eventually you can get locked out of high-sec. So the Empire navies will sort of chase you down. They aren't as good as Concord, but they'll sort of chase you down and start attacking you. So you can move through the space, but you can't dock at the stations or anything like that. So having a low security status does make you into a cool pirate, and people like having that status. But at the same time, unless you have other means of acquiring ships, then you can't get to Jita anymore. So you can't get to your trade hubs to buy new things. So you do need to take care about that. And now, like I said, there's no rules, and you just can shoot at anyone, and you don't lose any security status whatsoever. There is also interdiction spheres, which are large bubbles you'll see in space, and they act like warp disruptors for that entire sphere. So special ships called interdictors launch those, which means on a gate you can bubble the gate, and it's much easier to catch people on gates and null, so it's easier to kill people that way. So that's what makes null potentially more dangerous, but it's really only on the kind of border system. So that's why I was a little bit nervous about jumping into Tama, because it's a high sec to low sec border, and where you go from low sec to null sec, that's generally where people will set up gate camps, because they know that that's where the traffic's coming through. If you join a group like Brave, and once you're down in their space, then there's whole system after system where there's no enemies in, like it's only these purples that are in the system. And if that's the case, then technically you're 100% safe from other players until a new player enters the system. And that's why local is the most important tool for intelligence, because if the system is blue, which means that you only have friendly players in it, then it's even more safe than high sec, because in high sec you can still be ganked. So that's just kind of food for thought. All right, so we're already kind of past the initial class time, and I haven't run a site. I've just been answering questions, which is always great. But let's go see if anyone will kind of give us any hassle. So let's see. No one's in that small. Now, two things. If the plex called small, medium, or larger, named like that, is on the overview, it means that someone's been there at some point and hasn't completed it yet, but that means someone has been there because it's been popped. If you do Alt-P to bring up your scanner, you can see that potentially there might be other system signatures in here that don't appear on the overview. If you begin to work to these, I wonder if I can start to work to this large and then stop, you should have seen that a second large appeared on the overview. That's it. If people are watching, that is a kind of flag or a siren that someone is en route to that site because they just popped it. So I would probably bet you, I'm not within D-scan range, but I probably bet you that people will be warping to that large if there's any kind of hunters out here just to see who popped that site. But let's go, I think there's a scout. Which is the small one. So we might pop that because I don't see the scout in the overview. So we're going to warp to that to 0. I know that no one can be there. Oh, no, that's further than my thing. I do see it there. Thankfully, I caught that because that's beyond my D-scan range, so people could have been in that. I do want to go to one of these smalls then that are empty. So let's bring up the D-scan first. So no one is still at this small. No one is at that small. So checking my D-scan settings, I've got 14 AU and 5-degree angle, so I'm seeing just what's in that site. So we will go to that small just to show you the process. Now, when I warp there, I'm going to change to 360, which you can see immediately I've seen some things. I'm going to reduce it to 1, because that's going to show me what's close to me. When I land on the site, you'll see that there's an acceleration gate. If there's something waiting outside this gate that you were not expecting, and you smash this activate gate button as soon as it lights up, like now, like that, nothing can catch you. And because in low sec you can't have these interdiction spheres unless the system is corrupted to level 5, which is a relatively new mechanic, then nothing can get you. Now you can see definitely someone has been in this system. There is drones that have been left. There's also a wreck there. and there is a rat to kill. So because this is an offensive plex, because it's controlled by the enemy faction, before the timer will start to run down, which is here, that's how we complete the site, I need to go kill this rat. So that kind of slows me down. Now I'm constantly hitting D-scan, and I don't see anything at 1 AU and 360, so we are safe. That's why it's so important to understand how that process works. Okay, so I can constantly hit here, we'll kill this guy hopefully, and then we'll set back up on the beacon. So this beacon here, that's I've just put on the screen, that's where all ships coming into this site must appear. And you have to stay within this orange circle there. The red circle is my targeting range, but that orange circle, I may just be a little bit low in DPS to kill this guy without my drones, so I need to engage my drones. Did forget about my drones just while I was chatting there. And we will go on a kind of orbit just to reduce damage. I can also show off scram kiting as well just here. So if this was a player, I've scrammed, webbed them, and I have an afterburner. So I'd probably want to orbit anywhere between 5,000 and 7,000. So if I orbit away, then that usually reduces the damage that they take. And remember, because I'm rockets, then I don't have any fall off. So as long as I'm within 7,500, my rocket's going to hit guaranteed. I'm now starting to break it, but you can see because of the ship that I've picked, my DPS is not as much as like that Merlin, that 200 DPS Merlin. So it's taken some time for me to kill this destroyer rat. That's because I'm in a small. If I was in that scout, then the scout has a frigate rat and has much less has less active reps than this one. So there's a Gila has came on shot scan, and it's now off. Even if that was to stay there, I'm still safe because a Gila's a cruiser, and cruisers can't enter the small. So that's so Federation Navy Comets on shot. I don't think I'm going to win against that if he's rail fit. So what I'm going to do, just to show you how to stay safe, if you don't want to take the fight, I'm going to align out. Okay, he's still on shot, which means he's on my acceleration gate. I'm going to align out to my safe. Now it could be friendly. He has come in and he's friendly, okay? So that's okay. I'm not going to take the warp out now, but I was primed there. I'd aligned out to warp out. He's just come in to see if I was an enemy, and I wasn't. So he's warped off now. And I'll go back to killing it. However, he's now regened, which is unfortunate. But hopefully we were starting to break him, so... that's why like the Merlin I showed off is actually a much better ship if you want to come and run these for money. I'm hoping I can break this, or I might be forced to go to a scout. I thought I just had about enough DPS, but we'll see. Because the Merlin would have tore through this thing really easily. Let's get a wee bit closer, keep him webbed. Okay, well, that was some excitement that turned out to be just a friendly. So I generally don't warp off, especially if there's friendlies, because although your D-scan tells you what the ship is, usually everyone renames their ship. So if you're... Blaze, I'm in Brave Newbies. So you can see the big symbol at the top left there, Brave Newbies. So we're an alliance that is really catered towards supporting new players. So even if you're new, we'll take you, and there's a lot of programs in place that will give you free ships, free skill books, and we run classes like this to kind of introduce you to new content in the game. There's other ones out there as well, but obviously I'm biased. I've been part of Brave for a long time. Okay, so I see a Tristan. Okay, now that could be an enemy. He's on shot scan. That's actually a fight that I think I'll take. So I'm going to go back to the beacon. I'm going to untarget this guy. I only see the Tristan just now. I'm going to move to my targets window. He's friendly as well. So that is there's quite a lot of friendlies in this system. I see a Punisher now. Maybe they're all working together. If this Tristan stays, Now, Punishers are very tanky, but so am I. The Tristan's in here, he's actually helping me out, I think. And now that I have a friend in the same complex as me, if that Punisher was an enemy, he has decided not to come in onto 2 frigates. So we'll lock this back up. But this is why you can see how much I've just used descan already. Just to make sure that I'm safe. You can use the shortcut V as well. You can see you can get some shortcuts there. Just so you don't have to move your mouse over and hit click all the time. Hey Aurora Blad, good to have you here. See if we can actually take down this thing now that I'm close. Hello. Unless I don't have his drones on my overview, he's either shooting this thing or doesn't. Ah, there we go. There's his drones out now. So that's actually quite convenient. And you'll see the timer run down. This site's already been run a bit, so hopefully we won't have to stay here too long to get the LP. The idea being that if you run down the site to completion, you get an award of loyalty points. For this small, that could be as much as 15,000 loyalty points. And in fact, if this is a frontline system, it might be a bit more than that. Loyalty points can be exchanged for items that you then sell. That's how you make money out of faction warfare. And a kind of shorthand explanation of it. And you can get roughly anywhere between 1 and 2,000, if you are doing it smartly, ISK per LP point. So if you're getting 15,000 even LP, and that takes you can see the timer is now running down. It has 4 minutes left. The timer on this would be about 12 minutes if it was fresh. Someone's already run it down a little bit. So after, 10, 12 minutes, you get 15,000 LP. If you do some quick maths, some quick head maths, then that is, 15 to 30 million, depending on how much value you get out of your ISK per LP. So that's quite good. And that means for, if you're uninterrupted, anyway, for 10 to 12 minutes of farming, you have made 15 to 30 million ISK. If you could run a site without being hassled, oh, right, so we have another Tristan in the Federation Navy Comet. So the Fed Comet before was friendly. Oh, that Tristan's in the site with me, okay, but we still have a Tristan Fed Comet on the gate. There was a friendly, I don't remember, maybe someone, oh, there, so we have an enemy Tristan and an enemy Comet. So we're probably going to die here, but we're going to go see if we can get this Tristan first. And see how my other Tristan friend helps me. Now he's kiting for sure. So I'm going to try and manually pilot and get him, but he is going to be a little bit faster. I've overheated my prop mod, okay, to see if I can just catch him. I'm going to use my first shield rep. Okay, we are getting closer. I might need to bring on this one, but what we might try is, if he has just been a bit fast, I will go away from him, okay, because he is going to want to increase the distance from him. And I'm going to turn off my armor rep. And what I want to do is maximize the distance I have from him, so that he comes in to try and keep me pointed. I think I may go down though. He just was able to kite me out just a little bit well to try and slingshot him close. So I want to kind of manually pilot. Okay, I'm starting to get a little bit close. Just trying to get into that scram, that web range, just to catch him. But I think he's going to kind of just outdo it. I'll see if I can extract. Okay, I want to turn off my faster prop mode. So I'm going to watch the direction that he's going in, just to try and see if I can get far enough away that I can break his, get out of his point range. So I basically want to try and get away with him and see that there's a bit here, but I think he seems to be quite a good pilot actually, and he is going to take me down. So that's your usual kind of Sometimes you can just get kited, and I just got kited out, and I've burnt out my prop mod now, unfortunately. So there's not much left to do, and that is us. We are done. You can always save your pod if you do have any implants, because you don't get bubbles in low sec. That a lot of people will fly with implants in their pod because it's much more likely that you can get your pod out. How you can still die to smart bombs, so it's never safe in Eve, and I always give everyone a little good fight. So one issue there was because I was fighting the rat, I was off the button, so you saw that they warped in at like 15 kilometers. If I'd been able to get back to the button a little bit sooner, then I could have maybe caught that Tristan, and I could have started. And the whole time that he was kiting me, I would have been applying DPS to him. And you saw that even though I couldn't really apply DPS beyond my 2 drones, that I stayed in the fight quite a long time, and I was able to go through a couple of cycles of my rep charges there, so you can see the sort of tankiness of it. But I think he was definitely an experienced player with his piloting. I was trying to do a technique called slingshots. I was trying to go away from him so that if he was keeping at range or orbiting me around 20, the autopilot would start actually traveling towards, and then I could overheat my prop mod and rush towards him to try and get into that scram range. And I got within about 12 kilometers before he started to pull range again. So he was just a bit too fast for me. If I'd only been a little bit faster, then I could have caught him. In that case, a better matchup would have been if I did have the micro warp drive. I absolutely would have been able to catch him and take him down, probably, because I'm not too worried about his engagement distance, because he just was a kiting Tristan, like the fit I showed earlier, where he just probably had drones, and even if he had newts, I still had my scram and my web, so I could stay just out of newt range if he was coming with newts. So given that I just wanted to run this for a kind of hour, then I probably it'd be a good time to kind of finish off and just take any kind of last questions. Basically what I would do now, if I'd got some LP by finishing that site, we saw the timer going down, I could go back to my Norvikaiken station and exchange some of my LP for items. I would use the Fuzzworks site, so I'm going to post that in chat. I thought I had that open, but Fuzzworks LP store. So this is where you can go to check what the prices are for the items that you buy in those LP stores. So you don't want to exchange your LP for items you can actually lose money on, and depending on how the market is right now, it's totally possible to do that. Some LP items take an initial IS cost as well as the LP, and then sell for less than that. So you need to be careful and understand what you're trading your LP for. And that site that I've linked there can certainly help you do that. Unless there's any questions, that is my time. Hopefully we learned something. We got some exciting PvP action, even though I lost. I think the comet went after the other Tristan. I was too busy watching my own battle to see how that went. I'll look at it in the post. The Federation Navy Comet is definitely a scary ship. If he was coming in on his own, I could have maybe assumed that he might be blaster fit, and if that's the case, then he is down to his null damage, which is less, and 3 drones, so he can still bring damage even in that scram kite range, which is why the Fed Navy Comet's a really strong ship in faction warfare, and you see it quite often. So I don't see any more questions coming up, so hopefully that was informative, and I'll catch you guys again.